not shown interest.
So maybe that's one place you can start, and get an announcement out there at your next meeting when needed. Get these.
I send the announcement out every month. That would help.
Yeah, you'll see.
Yeah.
But
We need some people that pitch. Curtis has stepped up to the plate a great deal. Curtis Meneses has helped. Joe's helped.
Yes, that's exactly.
Billy Gerard, where's Billy?
Or you can just.
Hiding over there.
Oh, there he is. You know, so we got like basically three guys trying to put this whole thing together. Anyway, next month, I believe we have a training scheduled for wind towers. That's kind of in the works. The month after that, December, we have a potential venue in mind back to the Yogi Bear Campground in Sturbridge. I don't know, something holiday season training and such. So if no one else has anything, I'm going to introduce Cisco Meneses from Fire Escape Engineers.
Well, there's another minute, but I'll.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where Tom was. Tom, I don't know his last name, but
Tom Curry. He's
Tom
not an
Curry
inspector.
from Cisco, from Fire Escape Engineers. Handouts have been circulated. Anything else you need?
No,
You're
just
up.
trying to get the internet to work, and yeah, we're out in the middle, but it seems to want to work one way, but we'll get in there, as they say.
You're up in the woods now, Cisco. You can't
Can't have everything.
No. Please turn your cell phones off. Put them on buzz. I had a conversation with Louis Hasbro from Northampton yesterday, and apparently he wasn't able to attend last month's meeting where Mike Wigley talked to us about sort of an update on the IEBC. And Louis and all of us are still having, trying to get through all the newness of the IEBC. And I'm wondering if there's any appetite out there for revisiting that again at another training. Anybody? Think it's good?
Energy code?
The International Existing Building Code. That was our topic last month. And Mike, of course, walked us through it. And I guess maybe I came away with more questions than I did answers. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way. I think Louis did. Well, actually, Louis wasn't there. But he brought up a few topics that weren't really addressed last month, and maybe we can talk about doing that again in November or December, and hopefully find a place that's a little easier to find than this place. All set, Cisco?
Yeah, I'm just gonna make sure that this video is loading, and then we'll start the class. Looks like I'm focused on this side, so I might have to.
Oh, Gordon doesn't matter anyway. You can ignore him.
You can ignore me.
Yeah.
There you go.
I thought I was playing to just one side, so.
See, they all started over here, and then they all kind of moved away from him.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, there's just a slowness to the internet up here. I apologize. But we just adjust the camera accordingly. What we're going to be doing today is talking about fire escapes that I'm going to record. So in case you miss something, snooze off, don't have full attention on what's going on, we're going to give a copy back to Paul Tacey of this class, and or you'll find this class, like many of our other classes, online. So if I don't know if we have the ability to kill. Did anybody see the screen all right?
Yeah.
Perfect. The way that I'm going to start the class is I'm going to tell you just what's been going on, and you have this brochure in front of you. And what that is basically a compilation of information that's out there that never existed that we have to sort of put together. If you look nationwide for anything related to fire escapes, in the fire code, the building code, and the housing codes, you find about one paragraph. Says a very strong statement that says all fire escapes must be structurally sound and kept painted. They won't tell you how it's going to be kept strong and structurally sound and be kept painted. It won't tell you how to inspect it. It won't tell you how to repair it. It won't tell you anything. And they want you to interpret it. So that's a nationwide problem. So that's just not here. That's a nationwide problem. So we've had to go in, and since the 1930s, there hasn't been any information, anything being done with fire escapes, because it was in 1930 that you stopped building fire escapes. So everything was pretty much all built out, because it was then that they changed the code that says no new buildings can have fire escapes on the outside. So you can imagine how many hundreds of fire escape companies that were in business all of a sudden just went out of business. Because they built New York out, Chicago out, they built, all the major cities, they just built them. And then all of a sudden, just stopped. So then the information that came with it sort of went out the same window, because they said, we just finished building all these fire escapes, so there's really no maintenance. There's really no work to be done, so everybody didn't have any extra work to sort of watch their stuff. And then they said, well, what are we going to do with these existing fire escapes? Because the code is very clear, no new construction can have a new fire escape. Well, what about old construction, pre-existing structures that, fire escapes is the only answer? So these fire escapes are still being built throughout the times, but again, by who? Joe Ironworks, Bob Welding Company. There's no major companies building these fire escapes anymore. So they were expecting every one of these fire escapes to be gone by now. Every single one of these buildings that had fire escapes was supposed to be gone by now. So what happened though was somebody in the meantime invented duct tape, bubble gun, paper clips to keep all these buildings together, and you guys deal with those buildings every day. And what did they keep on the outside? Fire escapes. Fire escapes is the bastard child of egress. So you guys will make sure that the smokes are working, that the walls are done, that everything in here is working. But the last thing anybody ever really looks at nationwide is fire escape. So in here, I'm going to go over a lot of the stuff that we identified that was needed to basically get everybody back on par on what needs to be done. Because there's really a problem out there. Inspectors are writing scrape and paint violations. Guess what people do? Scrape and paint. Vendors don't have any guidelines because, you're supposed to pull a permit when you repair a fire escape, right? When you paint the fire escape, you need a permit? So guess what everyone is using to fix a fire escape? Which permit do they use? The paint permit, which doesn't exist. So they hide under your radar. So you're not watching, because you got guys that do landscaping, you got guys that do window treatment, you got guys that do welding, you got all kinds of guys fixing fire escapes with paint and silicone. And then the third one is out there that is the engineers. Now engineers are supposed to be doing, as the code states, a critical examination. Certification. Certification is not an eyeball test. Certification. So the fire escape is right in your code. Certify and or test. The word load test. So we're going to talk to you about we're going to talk about all day today, the word certification, not load test. Because when's the last time anybody in here witnessed a load test on a fire escape? So we're going to go over all those three people that now have been working for the past 75 years on making fire escapes something you don't really go after, you don't really see, and as long as it looks black and it's been painted, you think it's okay. So we're going to catch all three people. So with that, does anybody remember the station night fire?
Yeah.
Okay, so Hank Philippi Ryan did a show, and she involved, I think Northampton came up as one of the names. Anybody remember the Channel 7 news piece on fire escapes about 5 to 7 years ago? Okay, so let me talk about what changed Massachusetts. We had our building code 1028.3, didn't exist. The code in Massachusetts must be maintained at all times. It wasn't until this accident happened on Marlborough Street that the law changed so that they want it to be proven every 5 years. So prior to that, it must be maintained at all times. This fireman was waiting for the ladder to come on Marlborough Street. This is the 4th floor. And as he's just about to reach his ladder, was a fire escape collapse. He held on with one hand, she tried to grab him. She fell to her death, and the child, which was her niece, fell on top of her, 8 years old at the time. He survived. This photo won a Pulitzer Prize for the photographer who worked for the Herald at the time. So that's what it takes. A lot of times it takes a death. It's never a landlord that falls. And it's very rare there's going to be a building inspector that's going to fall on one of these. The people that are going to get hurt are the owners, or the tenants, and the firemen trying to save the tenants. Okay? So with that, you guys remember the Channel 7 news piece? They called us and said, hey, we want to do a piece because 100 people died in that fire. We want to show people that there's other ways out of your building. They want to do a 1-minute piece. We took her and we showed her when we spoke with her, and again, we just got picked at random, so that she didn't pick us. We sort of got found by her. And she goes, you know, I just want to make sure that people know that they can use their fire escape. I said, well, on average, on the inspections that I do, not only in Massachusetts, but nationwide, 75% of everything I find fails immediately. Hasn't been touched in 25 to 50 years. Out of that, 25 to 50% has dangling treads or an emergency situation. She didn't believe me. So we gave her a 15-minute training course. I'm going to give you a little longer than 15 minutes today to how to inspect the fire escapes from the ground. You're not going to get on them anymore. You're going to look out the windows and you're going to get on the ground. I'll give you all the tricks on how to spot a good fire escape. And instead of the 1-minute piece, she came up with this.
We rely on fire escapes to get out alive, but how can you be sure they're safe? 7 News investigation uncovers a massive statewide safety problem, faulty fire escapes ignored by inspectors.
Hank Philby Ryan shows us why you could be left with no way out.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him,
Oh, I was scared to death.
but the fire escape that broke underneath him.
When it ran, we just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes, rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So for months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results. Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings. Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Right.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal. Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one, a broken tread. So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files, but there's no fire escape certification. To see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports. There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the Director of Inspectional Services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules. And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes.
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
Not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track. How can they get away with that?
I guess the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made. Would you talk to us on camera about this? No? But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes. Again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law. The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation. You don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn, the Massachusetts building code is not optional. Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue, and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom.
So, how many of you got hundreds of calls after that aired, 5 to 7 years ago? So, as you can see, until there's a death, somebody falls on the ground, a lot of times it's out of sight, out of mind, it's great, it's shock value right away, but let me tell you what Boston did right away, because you just can't jump on every fire escape. They have 8,500 fire escapes. They have a mob scene down there if you started jumping on every single one. But if you want to write this down, here's the first thing you can do to get to make it an automatic. In Boston now, you can't close a permit without having a current confidence fire escape affidavit on file. So just make sure that as part of your list, when you're closing any permit, somebody comes in for an electrical or a plumbing or a roof or a porch, it doesn't matter. To close it, you're asking for a copy of the current certificate to close the permit. Now, you can close the permit and still, not generate a violation for that if somebody makes a big stink. You can't stop my permit from being closed kind of thing. But Boston does it. Ask Boston what they're doing and they'll tell you, and otherwise just make it a checklist item. So it's an automatic. That means if you have 5,000 buildings in your city and there's 1,000 a year that are doing permits, then those 1,000 are going to get caught up in a permit process for some reason, and there's going to be a question asked. If you have an external means of egress, I need a copy of your current. So you're not asking them to inspect that fire escape, you're asking for a copy of the current certificate. Make it a checklist item. Number 2, you got your fire department. They do smoke detectors. You can't occupy a building until they do a smoke detector sign up. Work with fire prevention. Have them add to the checklist one item. They need a copy of the current affidavit to close their file. So they can't stop them from, giving them the certificate for the smoke, but they can then generate a violation because they don't have. So your fire department now has a checklist and they say, do you have a copy of the certificate? No, then I need a copy of the violation from the city to just close that jacket. Do you understand? So there's 2 people working every day, touching every building, and over a 5-year period, you're most likely going to touch every building. But after a while, when you have this automatic checkbox system, a lot of these buildings are getting caught. So that's what Boston did immediately right after that. They created so that a lot of these people are frantic. I just changed my toilet and now I got to get a fire escape affidavit. And they start yelling and screaming at me like, oh, and I say, hey, in order to close the permit. So it has had results. And we got a lot of calls of people saying, I was, putting in a tree with a permit and all of a sudden now I got to fix my fire escape. Okay, so it does work. Okay, so now, one of the things that we're going to cover, and I'll go very briefly. Let's start off the back. We do these training courses. We do them all over. So just this month, we've done Taunton. We just finished Westboro. We did Lowell, a class for their building inspectors directly, and it's already online. I'll show you where you can go. If you want to write down the name of the YouTube channel, it's free. It's called Fire Escape Academy. There's 500 videos there of classes just like this, that as soon as we can, we put this up online free. So if you missed a class, you didn't understand something, go back and watch it. There's also an opportunity every now and then, just like I had with Lowell, who did I get to walk around me? Not any of the inspectors, but the building commissioner walked around me. And so here we walk in the alleyways with the building commissioner, and if I have the ability to do it now after this class, somebody wants to walk with me downtown, if I can videotape you, I will videotape you and I'll explain what we did in this class because it's sort of like a mini test. In Westboro, which was about 2 weeks ago, we did a class, and who was the last one standing was Gene Novak. So we have a class with him doing a downtown walk around in Westboro, and we did about 30 minutes with him. So now we use those videos, and they're up online free, so that in case somebody asks you, what should I do with my fire escape, you can send them links to the fire escape of either the Lowell, the Westboro, or any inspections that I have. When I get an inspector online and doing a walk around, we put it up online, and we use that to train the public, as well as yourself. Those videos that I have on Fire Escape Academy, which is about 500 videos, is from here to the West Coast. I teach this class from here to Seattle, Tacoma, LA, Houston, Texas, Corpus, Chicago, New York, DC, New Jersey. We teach a continuing education course, 6 hours long for credits, down through Kane University in New Jersey. That's where we've had our most success. We teach this exact course. Today's not going to be 6 hours long, but we do this for continuing ed. And again, a lot of it is just free. This class is free, and a lot of the work that we do, as long as we're in the area, we'll teach a free class. But we had to put the classes online because a lot of times you can't get people together. Scheduling meetings is tough. So if you want to learn more about Firescape, just get online, Firescape Academy. They're 3 to 5 minute videos. And you're going to watch either me telling you what to look for, or I happen to drag an inspector out. So I have inspectors in Washington, D.C., Portland, Oregon, D.C., New Jersey, Massachusetts. If I can drag somebody to do a cameo, they're there. So I'll show you some of those today. Now let's talk about what we have right here. Actually, just let me briefly tell you. Today we're going to talk about credentials. So whoever you're going to be speaking with that's going to come and inspect in your town, structural engineer, Firescape engineer, or others qualified and acceptable to the building official, which is an architect, they better send you credentials. So what they're going to talk about is, we're going to talk about what is a qualified Firescape inspector. We're going to talk about tags that exist. This already exists in Seattle. Seattle had some people that fell from the 3rd story. They had us come in, we gave a class, so now these tags are in use. So if you go to Tacoma and or Seattle.org, go to their fire prevention website, because 40 states, it's the fire departments that handle this stuff, not the building departments. And 10 of the states, it's you guys that handle these inspections. This is already in use in Seattle, in New York, New Jersey. These are the tags, just like an elevator tag. Imagine you walking up to any fire escape and already has a tag there. If it's white, it's all right. Here you go, some more. If it's white, it's all right. If it's red, it's got some. It's going to cause somebody to be dead. And if it's yellow, it means it needs maintenance and repairs. We'll go over those here today. Confidence test. This is for the building. This is for the structural engineers and anybody signing off. This is not an opinion test. This is when you read some of these questions. There's no wiggle room. There's a lot of liability as soon as you start filling out this statement form. So we're now making structural engineers accountable for what they're signing off in your city. We're going to be talking about repair guidelines. How do you fix the fire escape? We're going to cover today. So we repair guidelines for you. How do you build new ones or extensions or catwalks? We sent you some drawings here as examples. We're going to teach you what a typical confidence test should, an inspection test should look like with photos, so you don't have to go to the site and see how bad it is. Whoever inspects got to give you photos of how bad it is to make your day a little easier. And yeah, we're going to talk about this lead guide. The EPA says that all fire escapes older than 1978 presumed to have lead. Can you weld on them? No. So everything must be a bolt fix. Now here's the best part. 98% of all the fire escapes built in the United States are bolted and are riveted. Weld has been the Band-Aid everybody's been using on such things. So it's not a big deal, this thing with the lead. It's not a big deal because 98% of all the fire escapes are bolted and riveted fire escapes. Okay? So that's what we're going to cover today. So let's get going because we want to make this, I'm not going to fly through it, but I'm just going to keep going. Any questions? Disagree with something? Open it up. If it's a code question about the current code, the past code, I'm going to ask around yourselves and say, hey guys, who may know that answer? So I'm not a code consultant guy. I'm just going to tell you what the code is national. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. That's it. Where do you find it? You find it in fire codes that say that, you find it in building codes that say that, and you find it in housing codes that say that. Well, what's the interpretation? There's no more. The interpretation now is going to be coming in. Every state wants you to load test it or certify it. Chicago's a critical examination and or a test. You guys, when you read your code, we'll read the code with you today. It says certify or test. So we'll talk about, we're not going to keep banging on test, even though we're going to talk about what's been happening for 75 years. This is live load testing. Okay? This is the people that are now touching fire escapes all the time. Okay? So this is when you need fire escapes, and I'll give you a couple of examples. This is not the actual picture, but this is similar to the picture down in Harvard Square. They're watching the pudding parade. All the college students were on there. It's that nice, huge cast iron molding on top of these, totally rotting and separating. The kids leaning on it. They're not even supposed to be out there anyway. And guess what happened to that big 10-foot piece? Fell down to the sidewalk. Did it hit anybody? No. Did it ricochet and hit somebody? Yes. Firemen use this fire escape all the time. We're going to talk about a load test right now. Back in the day when there was no AC, where did people sleep? Firemen go to fire escapes all the time to save somebody who can, for some reason, go out the front door. So imagine trying to save a child and falling with a child. You're gonna have everybody calling you if that happens on your watch. And also, guys who fix fire escapes. This is a representation of one of our guys out of Chicago. His dad fell in a similar situation to this, 7 stories. He didn't make it. So it affects everyone. Let's look at some other live load tests. How about these live load tests? If you're in a college town, you don't think kids are getting out on these fire escapes, do you? You don't think they're going from room to room through the fire escapes, do you? How about weddings and pictures and such? And kids going out putting their potted plants out there, having a smoke, or whatever it may be. If it's a smoke-free room, where do you think they're going to smoke? Here's a live load test that occurred down by the Rhode Island border. This is a condo, 5 condos. The guy who sold the condo, him and his son did the roof. But in order to do the roof, they had to take all the fire escapes off and then put them back. Was there any extra bolts left when he put it back? Of course they were, right? I'm on a fire escape that's similar to that one down there. There was one that is now here, and I'm on one. Every single one of them was ready to collapse. Well, how did this one collapse? By itself? Did it happen when pigeons landed on it? Or did it happen when a real estate agent and a buyer, another real estate agent and the seller, and a trustee from the building was going up there to look at it? When do you think of that? When pigeons landed? When the wind blew? Or when all these 5 people were on it? So when this thing collapsed with everybody on it, did it kill anybody? Nope. But everybody grabbed their phone and did what?
Call the attorney.
You're right. So you either call 911 or the attorney, but everybody was down in their attorney, and that's what happened. So this fire escape basically only fell 10 feet, but it was catastrophic enough to break limbs, and so that's a live load test. Now that could have been you, meaning going up there to do a quick inspection. We'll teach you never to walk on a fire escape. Not because 100% of them are bad. We're going to teach you the tricks of what you have to look for. These things are 75 years old. So we're going to teach you original hardware. If you see nothing but original hardware on a 75-year-old structure, do you want to get on it?
No.
If you see a fire escape that's 100% rusted and has original hardware, do you want to get on it? We're going to teach you in today's class that, and this is going to be proven today because we're expert witnesses on a lot of cases, and from a metallurgist, he's the one that taught us, rust on a fire escape starts at the connection, works its way out of the connection, and then eats all the paint. Everybody thinks that rust works the other way, you know. It eats all the surface rust and then it finally gets into a connection. No. So if I got a fire escape that's fully rusted that takes 25 years to lose all its paint, where did it start? In a connection. So if every connection has been compromised, do you need to see any more than a fire escape when you get to it and it's got no paint on it or it's got very rusty? Is it really a paint job problem or is it a structural issue? So the main thing you got to write, you will never write again scrape and paint violations because that's what's been getting everybody into trouble. Here's the new word. You got to write this down. Repair, paint, test. That's all you write. On every violation, I don't care if you see dangling treads, smashed trucks, always write on your violation, repair, paint, test, because it creates confusion. Because somebody's going to ask you what the word repair means. Repair what? Because they think you guys inspect these fire escapes. Repair what? That broken tread? And you answer to them when they say, repair what? You say, I don't know. I'm not performing the inspection. You will hire a structural engineer or other qualified individual who will call me to give me the inspection criteria to make sure that it's going to be done correctly. That person is going to tell you what needs to be repaired. Okay, then what's the word paint mean? Well, after the repair process has been done under permit, then we'll allow you to paint it. You or anybody can paint it, but no one will paint this fire escape prior to any repairs. What's the word test mean? The word test means, as it says in the code, that if I'm not satisfied that you did everything possible to that fire escape to get it ready for a load test, I will order a load test because the law says I can. Otherwise, if your engineer, through the oversight, has been watching this and he convinced me that there's no more rust in any connections and that the unknowns going into the wall has been either verified or nullified or duplicated, then I'm not going to order a load test. So give me a certification. So I want some sort of criteria what the certification process is. Otherwise, give me a test. It says right in the code. We'll cover the code. Okay? Another live load test. And it's usually something tragic. We're in this case in Iowa. 3 kids up there watching the fireworks. The owner who owns a lot of property that houses a lot of students had to fix something over here. So his guys took away that bracket. And that bracket was properly through welded with a big ugly plate on the inside. But when the guys put it back, They just put that 2-inch lag bolt, so a 1/2-inch hole with a 1/2-inch lag bolt. When you're sitting up there, what happens? Yep, boom, boom, blood on the ground, 3 kids, lawsuits. Why? Because, yes, question?
What consists of a load test rather than people just standing on it?
Yeah, I'll cover a load test right now with you. So when they grabbed this fire escape, they actually threw the pieces into a yard like 8 blocks away, and we found the lag bolt that was still attached to the bracket. So this is just showing us where they, instead of, this is like CSI fire escapes, but instead of keeping it in a controlled area, they threw it in a wooded area, and now we found the bolt that matched up exactly with the bracket. And yeah, that's a yard full of lawyers. I'm one of the guys, looking at stuff, but that's a yard full of lawyers. And we'll go into more information about lawyers because we're involved in a situation in Chicago. And guess who got dragged into a piece of a fire escape fell off? Guess who got dragged in? Everybody, including Chicago. And why is that? Because they've been accepting opinion confidence tests for all this time and not a critical review. Because if you accept, whatever you accept, if it's not standard, guess what happens when somebody gets hurt and you've been accepting paper that is not critical, not a certification. An opinion test with a bunch of disclaimers. Guess who gets to walk out? If I give you an opinion test or an opinion letter, that to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, and that's all that the Boston paper says, the affidavit, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity with the building code. Signed, done. Can I have disclaimers? So what happens is you guys get dragged in. So a lot of these confidence tests that we're designing now keeps the city out of the arena because you guys are asking either for a load test or a certification, and we're going to go into a lot more detail. So they put the fire escape back. They put a through bolt back in there. They still put a leg on it. The leg doesn't even have a sleeper. It's sitting right on the asphalt shingle. And then they put these 2 other legs on it that weren't there before. That was causing all the torquing. And in that corner, there was a bolt there, a bolt hole, to attach the corner. They didn't even put that back. So I was able to lift it and record it and walk the bottom bracket away and put it back because it was just improperly installed. So even you have to watch the vendors. Again, a lot of this is done without a permit. So nobody's confirming that this thing was properly installed. They have the right people. So this is another case in Boston where a girl fell from that 5th story into the pit because the railing was missing. See the rail right there? Now that's because this building and this building are 2 separate buildings, but your apartment on the top floor actually fed the roof deck of the building next to you. So these 26-year-old kids, him and his girlfriend, would party on that roof deck every night. So that night that they were drunk, the phone rings. She decides to go answer the phone. She's not familiar with the process, and without that rail there, where does she fall? Does she go back to her room through this door? Or does she fall to the right of it, 5 stories? Yeah. She was found down below. So these lawsuits and these things occur because people are dying from something, something related to fire escape. But very rare do we have any landlords dying from fire escapes. So, there'd be a great law, if we could get a national law that says all rent must be collected through the fire escape because you duct tape your check on the outside of your window. Wouldn't that be great? You'd have a lot more fire escapes fixed, or you'd have a lot less landlords out there. But that would be once a month. Imagine inspecting fire escapes once a month. You'd have the landlords do it. But I don't have any legs on that law. But let me tell you who does inspect fire escapes, right? 50 states, structural engineers. Some states don't even specify structural engineer. They say an engineer registered in that state. Some states say structural engineers or an engineer and architects. So if you're a landscape architect, guess what you can do? You can inspect fire escapes. Some cities swear by it. They say, you inspect fire escapes. You all inspect fire escapes. You were just there and you walked it and you didn't say nothing. And that all he said, he wanted some stupid little paper that says this thing is good for your file. That's all I get from these people. Oh yeah, the inspector was just here, said everything is fine. I just need a little piece of paper from you that says everything's fine. But by the way, the inspector already said it's fine. Don't find anything wrong with the inspector to tell me. And then we got fire escape inspectors. There's only 2 licenses in the entire United States. One is out of Boston, which is a G3 license, and one is out of California, which is put out by the fire department. It's called the Reg 4 license. The one in California, I got a 100-question test, $1,000 fee, 3 years. You got to go out with a fire marshal, very intense. You got to show your stuff. The one in Boston, you know, if I start with railings and window guards, I can graduate to brain surgery and become a fire escape inspector, and nobody knows. So, a G3 license in Boston is a city license, but it's used throughout Massachusetts because it's structural engineers and or others acceptable to the building official. So if you accept a G3 license, they'll inspect in your city. The same guy who holds a G3 license usually is the same guy who's the vendor. So he repairs and inspects his own work. Usually under a paint permit. You love those paint permits. How many paint permits have you signed off in the past couple of weeks? Past couple of years? So there's a little play in there. I know. I won. I've done it a million times. Everybody's playing under this, you know, I'm painting the fire escape and changing one bolt. Not the other way around. I'm changing hundreds of bolts and painting, you know, one piece of the fire escape. So that's what we got to stop. Not only for me, you got to stop it for everybody, because that's where the abuse has been, is because everything is under paint. And as long as you show up at the Home Depot, you know, Rust-Oleum can in one hand, a caulking gun in the other one, I can hide a lot of crap. Okay, so those are the 2 licenses. So every state, depending, you can sort of go to various states and say, hey, I have these 2 licenses. They're the only ones. So there's no national license for fire escape inspection. There's no training for fire escape inspection. So there's no documentation out there. So we invented a lot of documentation because we have to reverse engineer all the stuff that was thrown away in the 1930s. And the way we test it is we keep throwing it out in classes. This is almost 5 years of these type of classes. And we have all the time in the world, because as we throw this out, we either get feedback that says you're crazy, you don't know what you're doing, or you know what, that's good. Finally somebody's putting some of this stuff together. And I find it in all these different places. We're also now, because of this information, starting, and you'll see as of January, the National Fire Escape Association, where a lot of this stuff needs to be housed. And the members in the National Fire Escape Association will be fire escape inspectors, fire escape engineers, structural engineers, city officials, fire officials. They'll all be making a part, because that's where you'll go in case you want the standard of, you know, what's the standard for fixing fire escapes. Otherwise, this is it. What we'll do is, if we were asking for your card, we'll actually give you a book. It's about, you know, 2-inch book of all this stuff, but in blown up form. So if you want a book that is a fire escape book, I just need your business card. And we'll send you, it's a free book, along with CDs on the inside of classes that you can have. So you can use that to train guys in the future if you don't want to use the YouTube channel. But the CDs are just there because some of you guys have a blocked YouTube channel at the city level that they won't let you go onto YouTube for some reason. I know, there's other stuff to see there besides good old training. So, but otherwise, that's why we put it on CDs for you. Right off the bat, pass or fail this fire escape?
We asked that it be certified, we don't pass or fail yet.
No, I'm sorry, your opinion, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Your opinion, pass or fail?
I wouldn't accept it.
We were called in by the secretary who received the documentation from an engineer. Said, hey, on this fire escape, which the only reason it got cited was because there was an alarm in the middle of the night and a cop fell through one of the steps. Fire department came in, pulled the guy out through the step, and then all of a sudden it generated an inspection. So a structural engineer came out, she got the report from the structural engineer, and the structural engineer said, fix the door, fix some platforms that have some bent treads, fix those, put the tread back on the 3rd floor, and give the thing a good scraping and a painting, and I'll certify it. Now that's a structural engineer letter, that's the actual letter. We came in and we, you know, thank God it was a white fire escape, because I actually shot every one of those shots in high resolution, because whenever you find these behemoths, you try to use it as a case study, and we failed the entire fire escape. It was rotten. There's the one tread that they wanted to fix, but what about all this other crap? You know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and every gusset there was rust. So I don't think this guy got out of his car. Well, then, but he's been to school, and he was, I think he's now deceased, but this is somebody who's had years and years and years of experience. But did he have to fill out one of these confidence tests? No, he wrote an opinion letter with disclaimers. The disclaimer says, if I didn't see it, and I didn't witness it, it's not my problem. And he didn't do any oversight. So there's nothing in this letter that says, while you're fixing it, I'd like to be there and watch during the oversight. So confidence tests. Right now, the only place that I've seen that has a confidence test is LA. So you want to copy a good program? It's called Break 4 LA. I can put you in contact with Inspector Patrick Killian, and they have a test that you can go online and just download them, as well as Seattle. Just go right online for smoke detectors, for alarms. They have these confidence tests. What they've never had was a fire escape confidence test. This is still the test that I have to use today. Okay? This same form is used for sprinklers as well as fire escapes. So you list whatever you're working on, you have to basically put a little description and what your findings were. So a lot of room for, these guys don't have time to read a lot of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times we found that we need questions. Yes?
I don't get it. What do you mean by a confidence test? What's that all about?
They do a confidence test on...
Who's confident?
Excuse me?
Who's confident? I mean, what...
Yeah, the confidence test is usually provided because in LA, they basically take tradespeople and they license them to do what's called confidence test.
Okay,
And that is our sprinkler system. The sprinkler
LA
system is
government?
tested. That's a confidence test, saying it's good. The alarms are tested. The fire pumps are tested. They test everything on a building, and it's called a confidence test.
Okay.
And now we do a fire escape confidence test, is that I have confidence that this fire escape is in good working order, but I have to prove it to you with some sort of documentation. So this is LA. What we liked about the LA form is that we liked their front page, because it had all the information that you guys needed, including building information, department information, and fire department information, permit numbers, and all this other stuff. So we came up with a confidence test that basically is the basis of the confidence test that you have there. That is that Seattle confidence test. And on here it had checklists, names, and so page 1, we kept a lot of the information on page 1, but page 2, we had 2 parts, the structural and the general. And we didn't ask for your opinion, we made statements that you have checked every tread, you have checked every support, you have checked every cantilever, you have checked and every connection is free of all internal rust. So as we start asking, making statements, we have to say yes, no, or not applicable. These become statements that the engineers don't have too much wiggle room. From that, as you can see, a lot of these questions is what Seattle used. So if you want a confidence test that exists today, you can go to Seattle or Tacoma's right now, and you actually go on their website to seattle.org, and you go to fire prevention, and you download a confidence test. And all these questions they use as the basis for the confidence test that we have here. I'm also going to give you, and Tom's going to be passing out, as a pilot program, we're doing Framingham. So he's going to be giving you the confidence test for Framingham as a model, as well as the tags that we have. So take a look at those, and I'll be going over those in a little bit. As well as a typical example of a fire escape inspection. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. So he's going to pass those out as we keep going. So the one thing that we did here is Tacomas. So if you want to use Tacomas, I recommend you use Seattle's document, because that's the one we did for Framingham. We used that as a basis because they basically mirrored our confidence test 95%. The one thing we liked about Tacoma that they did, which Seattle didn't do, is they added one more, and that is the annual checklist. And you'll see at the end of your sheet there, the annual checklist is a great thing, because not only do you do a 5-year inspection on the fire escape, you also have the owner do a yearly inspection, which is ask just 3 questions. The bolts look good, does the paint look good, and all the windows are still working and the doors to the fire escape. So when the fire department or the building department does their yearly, they do the yearly inspection, which basically is to be signed by the owner or his agent. So imagine 5-year structurals, and then every year you just keep grabbing when you do the yearly walkthrough. And this will stay on top of the fire escape to make sure that trees haven't hit it, pigeons aren't pooping on it, or whatever may be the case there, okay? So again, a lot of these are online. Now, in Seattle, it was after 3 people fell from a fire escape on the 3rd floor that they started doing the tag system. Their tags, though, are 19 inches wide, 11 inches high. They're placed 7 to 10 feet from the ground, attached permanently to the fire escape, made of plastic and or a laminated material. And from the ground, you're supposed to be able to read when it got inspected and when the next inspection date is. Now, how valuable is this? If you can imagine that for 75 years, people don't know the condition of a fire escape. You have to go back, check the file, and that's a great way to waste time and lose control of a situation. But imagine being able to walk up at any time and look up at a fire escape and determine that it's still within its 5-year cycle. Now that's for you. In Seattle, every fire escape must have a tag, preferably a white, but now that's their code. So you can, instead of waiting for a state law to come through that says you have to have tags and confidence tests, you can either say, hey, as per the industry standard, I want tags and confidence tests on my fire escapes in my city, or through a local ordinance, you can make it so that every fire escape in your city must have a tag, just like an elevator. Now, here's the beauty about the white, the yellows, and the reds. And we'll teach you this as a standard. The first ones you're going to help is the firemen. Because a lot of you don't know that the firemen tell each other. The gray-haired guys tell the black-haired guys when they come in and start training, in case of fire, don't use the fire escape. And a lot of people don't know this, that what kills people in fires is not the fire, but it's the smoke within the first 3 to 5 minutes. So if a fireman is scared about getting on the fire escape because he's worried about falling, and rightly so, those 3 to 5 minutes while he's dragging a ladder off his truck, somebody's dying in the building. So, but imagine he gets there and he sees a white tag and he sees clearly when the next inspection date is. He can get on that fire escape with confidence. So that's the first thing. If he gets to that alleyway, smoky and dark, and he sees a yellow or a red, he's not getting on it. And he has the right not to get on it because the tag is telling him that this is not a certified fire escape yet. What we tell you to do is to have, we'll make up a tag similar to the one that you have here. You'll only have yellows and reds. That's all you'll have. You'll not change a lot of your activity. You're going to walk in the front door of any building and do your normal inspection of whatever you're there for, and you're just going to ask one thing. You're not going to order any inspections. You're going to ask for a copy of the current certification for the file. They usually say what to you?
We don't have it.
Huh? So you automatically have somebody that's out of compliance. The violation stands right there. You don't have to go back and see the building and say, great. The ones that we designed is 8.5 by 11s. So you print tons of these on yellow paper and on red paper, and you laminate. Everybody has a laminator. They're very inexpensive. $50 gets you one out of Staples. And you laminate these, and you carry a bunch of these in your car. And all you do is you're going to be putting yellows on fire escapes, because you're not inspecting. This is just a violation tag that says, because when you read it, what's it say the first thing you have to do if you got a yellow? Contact building official, have fire escape inspected, serviced, and certified. We're done. Now, the owner is going to, it may not be there when you're doing your inspection, but you just tagged it. Somebody's going to call you. The building owner, the building manager, or even a tenant, because a tenant's going to say, I got this yellow sticker outside my window on this only fire escape that I used to get out. So you think there's going to be any push from the tenants who see yellow stickers on their second means of egress? So all you have to do is just walk in and ask for a copy of the current certification. If they don't have one, start the 30-day process. You're going to go back there and just zip tie a yellow sticker that has your information on it. It just has Town of Framingham information on it, for example. And you put that yellow, it's just a violation. You're not inspecting it. If you get there and you see a dangling tread, is that a life safety issue? Then you put a red one on it. That's all you do. You're not an inspector. Now, when an inspection company comes out there, they're going to have these tags, because you're going to provide them these tags, but not with your information, not with your city information. This is going to be blank now. And they can handwrite in with a Sharpie, or they can get this in a PDF or a Word document, and we'll give it to you. And they'll put their beautiful information in there and print these out at their Staples or wherever. You know what I'm saying? Actually, you have a tag there, Tom? Great. So with these tags, thank you. With these tags, then your tag stays. Because, you know, your tag is a line in the sand. How long are you going to give them before you start pushing fines and fees? How many days? So you put the line in the sand with your yellow, and it says, and it says right there, repair permits, violations, and certification fees may apply. So whether or not you're going to be fining these people, as soon as you hang this yellow tag there, when we come in and inspect, or any engineer who's going to ask you for a copy of tags, because they put a tag next to it, your tag stays. They put another tag next to it. Now the engineer is the one that's going to fill out the rest of this information. So I'm going to pass these around. Otherwise, you can read the tags that we have there, just to get a feel of what, something you can do in your own office, of what, you can pass them all the way through and pass them to the back and just get an idea. All right? So you have these tags, and all of a sudden, you have to change it. It's gonna take 1 to 3 years, or 3 to 5 years for you guys to tap everybody. In the CD file that we're gonna send you, we've already taught, I think it was in Elizabeth, New Jersey, 400 firemen to be fire escape spotters. Because a lot of these fire escapes, you don't even know where they are. But a lot of your fire department does pre-plans. So we have a 1-hour CD that teaches these firefighters, as they're doing their pre-plans, to identify fire escapes at an address. And they only have 2 things they have to look for: an address and whether it's painted. The only other obvious sign that they are trained to do is that it's got hit by a truck, or there's a dangling piece of steel. Otherwise, they just give you 1 Main Street, rusty. That's all you have to do. So if you get a referral from the fire department, because they do pre-plans all the time, and they're finding fire escapes in the back of everywhere, you just send out a simple notice that within the next 30 days you need the fire escape certified. So that's how you get it. But it's going to take 3 to 5 years to eliminate 75 years. If you want to do an ordinance in your city that says every fire escape must have a tag, then within 1 to 3 years you're going to find every fire escape with a tag. Can we do it from the state level? Yeah. Does anybody know who I should speak with at the state level to get this thing done? But, you know, it's going to be 5+ years before it gets done, right? I've had more effect on a grassroots level, you know, doing it this way, onesie twosies here and there. Believe it or not, I'm in Boston. The first place that adopted this was Seattle. That did an administrative change in the fire code to adopt this system. So I can give you some references of people throughout the country, including the New England states and into New York, New Jersey, down to DC, of names who have, you know, used this to a certain degree within their city, but not really with or without an ordinance, or they just started using it because they couldn't wait for the state to come in and do anything. Rust. This is actually a detention center on Route 9. It's for 17-year-olds and I think it's juveniles. Look how much rust. If the sentence don't get them, the fire escape will. Again, they're only falling about 5 or 10 feet, but it's still. Here's what happens, guys, when you go up. This is why you're not going to walk up fire escapes anymore. A metallurgist has taught us that it takes to grow a 1/4 inch of rust on a tread